Okay, good afternoon again, everyone. So we're going to look at the different financial markets, financial instruments, and financial institutions. By way of review, we said that finance plays a major role in an organization. Typically, we can have this. Okay, you can have this organizational structure where the CEO is on top or is responsible for the activities done by the COO and the CFO. So under COO, you have marketing, operations, human resource, etc. For the under the CFO, you have accounting, the treasury, okay, etc., credit and legal. So this is a typical organizational structure where the CEO reports to the board of directors, who in turn represents the shareholders. So for today, our target is to be able to finish all of the slides for today, and then I'll give you a copy of the slide. Okay, we're going to talk about financial markets, financial institutions, and financial instruments. Okay, this is not a very comprehensive discussion of financial markets. We will leave the, there are many other, we will not go into so much details. What's important is for us to have an appreciation of the way financial markets work, what are the institutions that are involved therein, and what are the instruments or securities that come with within the markets. Okay, so let me just share with you here the definition of financial markets. Okay, and then okay, sige. Thank you, Trish, for the information. It's okay. As I said, I won't be marking anybody absent today. Okay. All right. Thank you for your messages, guys. I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate the information you're feeding me. Okay. So when we talk of a market, as discussed before, it's a place. No? The place can be, it can be physical or it can be virtual. A place does not have to be physical, and a place can be online. It can be a virtual place. And what's important here in the market, financial market, is that there is a buying and selling. So what's being bought or sold? Financial instruments. So financial instruments are traded between buyers and sellers. So these buyers and sellers participate in the trade. Okay, so what do they trade? Usually assets. And these assets can come in the form of investments in equities, investments in bonds, or investments in currencies or derivatives. There are, of course, other types of instruments or securities. These are just some of the examples, the basic examples. So what's important about markets is that it should be efficient. If you recall, yung efficient market hypothesis. No? In order for markets to be operating well, there should be transparency as far as the operations are concerned. Okay, there should be transparency. Okay. Mute ako muna, no? All right. Okay, so there should be transparency. When you say transparent, I mean the information should be available to all and not only some special people. Okay, because the moment the market favors only some, then it's possible that the market might collapse. Why? Because people will not anymore trust the market. They will not anymore patronize the market or put their money there, or or buy some assets there, because they know that there's this, let's say, a practice of the market to favor only some. So hindi siya efficient, no? Okay? Kulang ng transparency sa pricing. Okay? And there should be regulations as far as trading, yung cost and the fees, dapat very transparent. It should be defined so that anybody who's transacting any business there knows that if he or she or the company invests in this amount, he expects that there will be a brokerage fee of like this and the sales tax of like this. So it should be very transparent, and regulations should be clearly specified. And that it's the market forces. Market forces, ibig sabihin natural it's controlled by the law of supply and demand. It's not being manipulated by those operating the market. So no price manipulation. Okay, where you have this, where prices are being manipulated to favor some, it will generally lead to the collapse of the market. So very important, for example, sa equities market natin, PSE, Philippine Stock Exchange, where you're going to trade stocks, no? Equities, ownership shares in a company. For this to work, for the PSE to work, dapat highly regulated siya, no? Yung costs, okay, yung regulations on how to buy, okay, cost and fees, so that nobody can just transact any business with the PSE. Okay, dapat investment houses, tapos yung mga representatives sila are stockbrokers, duly licensed. Okay, license yun ng SEC, no? Through PSE, through the Philippine Stock Exchange. And then it's market forces that determine the price of the securities that is being traded. Okay, so ibig sabihin yung natural yung galaw ng prices. Pag masyado malaki yung demand, tataas yung price. Okay, bakit masyado malaking demand? Kasi people has this okay, perception that this company is going to perform well, okay, or is performing well, or is able to generate future cash flows that will allow them to distribute dividends, and that will increase or make the capital, their stock price, appreciate. Okay, so it's market forces that drive. Hindi yung price manipulation, hindi yung artificial, no? Artificial na effect ng movement in the price sa market. Okay, and aside from that, some would define financial markets as the central nervous system. Okay, so napaka-importante ng this is very important. The central nervous system, and that this nervous system is dependent really on the velocity of information, how quickly information is being say distributed or made known to the public. Okay, and as a central nervous system, it's very important because it's a vehicle where resources can be allocated, and as we said a while ago, where prices are determined. Okay, so what are the functions of financial markets? We said it offers liquidity. So there are some who have holdings on, let's say, PLDT shares, and they would like to unload it or convert it into cash. So where will they go? They will go to a financial market like the PSE, Philippine Stock Exchange, and go to the broker and sell their PLDT shares. Okay, so there are some who would like to buy PLDT shares. So the Philippine Stock Exchange, which acts as an intermediary, will now be the one to take charge of the mechanism of the exchange. And then, so liquidity is liquidity let's say is transferred, no? So there are some buyers and there are some sellers. Okay, and the buyers would like to park their money in the investment, and sellers would like uh, to transform the asset, just like the stocks, into cash. So ito yung liquidity na sinasabi natin. Okay, and then in the market, communication is communicated. It's important because companies that are listed in the stock exchange are required to disclose. So there's this process of disclosure. Any material information about the company that will affect the stock price should be disclosed. Okay, and this disclosure should be made available to the public. Aside from this, financial markets assume the role of being able to distribute risk. Okay, and thus it mitigates against the risk, and it distributes the risk among the players. So there are several examples of financial markets. Meron tayong money market, capital market, securities market, derivatives, primary, secondary, which we'll be discussing in a while. Okay, so this is what the financial market does. And there are three major players. In the direct financial market, we have buyers and investors or savers. And for the indirect, we have buyers, savers, and financial institutions or intermediaries. So these are the three principal players in the financial markets. Borrowers, and then there are savers, and then we have the financial intermediaries. Okay, so this is just to amplify what I discussed a while ago as regards the functions of financial markets. We said that financial markets make possible the channeling of funds. So there are those that have excess cash, okay, and then they would want to invest, let's say in equities. And there are those who need cash and they would want to dispose of their investment in equities. So the place where they meet is the market, okay? The lender or the savers, and those, the borrower or the spenders. And to a certain extent, it improves economic efficiency. Why does that do so? Okay, imagine if you have, let's say, 100 million pesos, and you don't have any business yet, none at the moment. So you'd like to invest it maybe in the debt market, okay, or maybe you'd like to put it in the equity market. So if there's no market for that, then where do you put your money? So just leave it to rot in your house, which is exposed to many risks: fire, floods, theft, diba? Instead of putting it in an investment in a vehicle that may earn interest, that may earn returns, okay, and that's not susceptible to risk like theft, okay, or fire, etc. So it improves economic efficiency because those who are savers or lenders have the means or have the venue, have the channels by which they can put their money else. And then those that have are borrowers, like those who need money, have also a place to get funds from. Okay, so that's a very important role of financial markets. And as I said a while ago, there are two segments. You have the direct finance and indirect finance. For the direct finance, the borrowers, okay, and the lenders meet face to face, okay, directly. So this may be the borrower, this may be the lender, okay. So they directly transact business among themselves. On the other hand, for the indirect finance, you have here the borrower needing cash, lender, excess cash, but it's difficult to go directly or find the lender. So the borrower would go to an intermediary. It's an intermediary. So very easy now for the borrower to access funds and very easy now for the lender to park or to invest their funds through intermediation. Okay, so borrowers borrow indirectly from lenders via financial intermediaries. Okay, and in exchange, there will be what we call financial instruments, or these are just proof that indeed the saver or the lender gave out this amount so that the lender will have a claim, okay, a claim on the borrower's future income or assets. So what do we mean by that? So this is a lender. So the borrower provides to him a security or an instrument. Okay, it's like a document. It's proof that the borrower borrowed an amount from the lender. And later on, the lender will have a claim on the profits or on the assets of the borrower in the form of, let's say, depends on what was issued. If it's debt and interest, okay, the lender has a claim through the interest that the borrower needs to pay or the principal itself. So that's the claim of the lender on the borrower. And of course, there should be an instrument. Okay, yung instrument, sabi natin, yun ang proof, yun ang document that shows that indeed the lender gave a certain amount to the borrower and that he'll be paid interest on that depending on the tenor of the loan. And then at the end of the term, he will be paid the principal. Okay, ganun din, class, kung equity siya. No? Kung equity itong security na to, yung instrument na to, okay, for common stock, well, wala naman nakalagay doon na kung kailan babayaran yung dividends. No? Pero may ownership yung holder of that instrument as proof na part owner siya ng business. So that in the event of liquidation, in the event of bankruptcy, the lender can have a claim on the assets of the borrower. Okay, but of course, we have discussed in class that there's what we call a pecking order. No? Pag na-bankrupt na itong company na to, okay, investors are not created equal. Ang una munang babayaran yung mga borrowers. No? Of course, the practice of liquidation will mean that the borrower who has become bankrupt will have to convert the assets into cash. So ano yun, ibebenta. No? And the cash raised might not be enough to satisfy the requirements of the investors, borrowers, and equity shareholders. Okay, kasi usually baka yung assets ng what if it's already old, tapos mahirap ibenta kasi baka pang junk shop na lang, no? Kasi it might be an old technology, okay, etc. for various reasons. All right. So we have direct and indirect finance. All right. So this is just an illustration. So here we have the direct finance, where in the market, whether money market or capital market, the buyers and sellers meet. Huh? They meet in that market directly. And in this regard naman, yung FIs, yung financial intermediaries, kaya dadaan muna sila sa mga financial institutions like credit institutions, deposit institutions like banks, okay, other institutions like investment houses, etc. So that the borrowers will be able to acquire the funds that are coming from the lenders. Okay, so the funds flow through the FIs, financial intermediaries, and then from the FIs, it flows to the borrowers. Dito direct, no? Sa direct finance. Dito, okay, the lenders necessarily do not know who the borrowers are and vice versa. Okay, so before that, let me pause for a while. Paki-chat nga please, if clear so far. I appreciate your feedback, class, kung clear so far yung discussion natin on the distinction between direct finance and indirect finance. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for the responses. Thank you so much for the feedback. I really appreciate that. Okay, good. Thank you. So let's now go to, okay, this is another illustration of that. And this is a very important diagram because it tells us of the financial system. Okay, and as we said, this is the central nervous system of any nation. This is the economy's central nervous system. If this fails, guys, the company will fail with it. Okay, because this is dependent on on how funds flow from different parties. If companies cannot get sufficient funds from whatever source, then how can they innovate? How can they improve? Or how can they operate? Okay, if savers do not have a channel by which they can put their money, okay, so what will happen to their money? It will just stay there in their houses, and maybe it will lose value because, especially if inflation is sets in. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This blue portion here is your direct finance. Okay, so this is where your suppliers and your borrowers meet. So if you take a look at this, the suppliers, okay, the one with extra cash, provide cash. Okay, and through the either equity market, okay, and the equity market, the the firms who issue the shares of stocks are given cash, and in return, they will issue shares of stocks. Now, this shares of stock is what we call the instrument, the financial instrument, fin instrument or security. Okay, financial instrument or security. And this proves that, so this goes to the supplier of the funds. This proves that the supplier of the funds has an ownership as far as this firm is concerned. Okay, kasi shares of stock yan, diba? So the supplier of the funds, whether individual or firm or household, okay, or the government, okay, so the supplier of the fund has a claim on the assets of the firm. So it can be in the form of dividends to be distributed by the firm. So since this supplier is a shareholder, then it has the right to participate in the distribution of dividends. And also in the capital appreciation. Okay, if the shares of stock appreciates, if the price appreciates, then the supplier can sell this in the stock market, okay, and then gain from it. Okay, if he bought it at 10 pesos per share, and then if the going rate is now 25 pesos per share, and the the one holding the shares of stock wants to unload this and sell it, then he stands to gain what we call an appreciation in the capital. All right? So pwede rin debt ang ano. Kasi remember, class, that an organization, okay, babalik tayo sa basic accounting equation. Any assets required by the firm in order to support its sales can either be financed with debt or by equity. So ito yun, no? This is the equity side. This is the debt side. Okay, so the firm, if it borrows, corporate market is long term. No? So ito, the company will borrow for a period for more than 1 year. So it can be 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So si Walt Disney nga, humiram dati ng 100 years. So it issued a century bond, no? Century bond. And strong companies like that, no? Walt Disney. can do this. Kasi alam naman ng mga tao na maybe the company Walt Disney will exist forever. Kasi Walt Disney was not created in order to fail or to just exist for 50 years. All right? Century bond, 100 years yung term ng utang nila. Okay? So the firm here will issue an instrument called a bond, okay, which will be given to the supplier of funds. So the holder of the bond has a claim on the firm's assets in the form of interest, okay, regular interest payments, and also at the end of the term of the bond, you have the principal payments. So cash versus securities. Okay, so cash given to the borrower, and then in return you have this financial securities in the form of shares, in the form of bonds, or if it's short-term borrowing lang, it will be conducted in the money market. So for companies that borrow for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, less than 1 year, they issue what we call not bonds but rather CPs, commercial paper. Pag government ang humiram, the government issues what we call T-bills, no? Treasury bills. Pero pag long term yan, treasury bonds din pag government. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, etc. So these are instruments of indebtedness. No? Ibig sabihin, may utang yung firm dun sa supplier ng funds na to. Okay, either commercial paper, if it's a private company, if it's a firm, or T-bills if it's the government borrowing. So diretso yung cash, no? Diretso din yung financial instruments like shares, bonds, or commercial papers. On the other hand, if it goes through the institutional investors or intermediary, so there are different types, no? Intermediation via banks. Okay, and banks are not the only financial intermediaries. There are also other institutional investors. Okay, and the same thing. So the cash will be flowing from the suppliers. Okay, suppliers of funds, and then it will go to the okay. So let me explain this. No, so dito, si suppliers of funds, it does not go directly to the borrower. Pupunta siya dito kay institutional investors. Okay, sino si institutional investors? Okay, pwede insurance companies. Okay, kasi ang ginagawa ng insurance companies, they will take in premiums from their clients and then they will invest this. Of course, very strict ang rule ng government on how insurance companies will invest that. May mga policies, may mga rules, very strict kasi fiduciary fund yung sa insurance. No? Ang objective yan, later on, kunwari pag namatay na yung policy holder and yung benefactor niya, kunwari yung parents siya or whoever, then the insurance company should be able to pay the concerned parties with the proceeds, no? Kung ano yung naka-indicate dun sa insurance policy. And then we have pension funds. Okay, we have investment funds. Okay, and then venture capitalists. So famous dito, class yung MFs, no? Mutual funds, which I'll explain in a while. So these are also companies, these are institutional investors. So what happens here? So the supplier of funds buys policies or buys retirement plans or buys into mutual funds. So what will happen is that the supplier will get shares of funds, no? And then it is the institutional investor who will transact the business, who will do the management of the funds by investing either in the equity, corporate, or the money market. So pag yung institutional investor, like the mutual fund, will be the one to invest the money. So merong siyempre mga instruments din. as proof that the mutual fund invested either in the equity market, the bonds market, or the money market instruments. So it's not the lender who goes to the market directly. Kasi mahirap din kung didiretso yung lender natin. No? Kunyari mag-isa ka lang. And then, for example, if you're going to invest in the equity markets, there's this principle in finance called diversification. Anong ibig sabihin yan? That when you invest in equity, there is what we call, in order to mitigate against the risk, dapat meron kang portfolio of assets. Hindi maganda kung iisa lang o dadalawa lang yung in-invest mo. No? Kasi that's really prone to risk. Pag bumagsak yung isang company na yun, baka ma-wipe out yung investment mo doon. No? So, a good astute investor in the stock market will maintain a portfolio of, let's say, 20, okay, 10, maybe 15 to 20 stocks. No? Okay, but how can you do that? Kahit na tinutulungan ka ng broker, mahirap din yan. Okay, but for those, there are those who are really, sabihin natin, naging expert na sila dito. No? So they know how to navigate through this. But if you're a newbie, it would be best to go to an intermediate, through intermediation, through a mutual fund. Kasi yung mutual fund, yung mga mutual fund managers, expert sila dito. No? So you're tapping their expertise to invest here. So what's being done is they will pool the resources. Lahat ng mga nag-i-invest dito, they will pool the resources and then they'll be the ones to invest here, either in the equity market, bonds market, or the money market. So parang may professional advisor ka, and that makes it a good investment. Okay? So generally, ang returns sa mutual funds is, of course, definitely higher than just depositing your money in the bank. So iba't ibang klase mutual funds. Okay? I would that you look at examples of mutual funds in the Philippines and perhaps no, consider investing in one. Kasi mura na lang yung mura na lang yung minimum, no? Yung minimum na amount that you can invest in a mutual fund. Okay, there's a question here to clarify, what does intermediation? Intermediation means, class, you don't go to the markets directly. There's one party that does that for you. Okay, and there's a reason why there are many who would go to via intermediation. Because when you go directly to the market, class, if you're not an expert here, your funds might get burned. Baka masunog yung investment mo kasi hindi mo na maalam kung paano talaga umano dito maglaro. Itong mga institutional investors, they're mga experts in their own right. Okay, so sabi ko nga, it's as if you have your own financial advisor. No? So the risk, does that answer your question, Rafi? Hello, Rafi? Okay, thank you. Thank you for that question. I appreciate that. No? So, kunyari sa mutual fund. Sa mutual fund kasi, ang ginagawa ng what the money managers do is they ask you, so what type of fund do you want? Is it a balanced fund? So when it's a balanced fund, you have 50% equity and 50% bond market. So they will put your money 50% equity and 50% sa bond. Or is it a more, say, risky investment? So if it's a more risky investment, there will be more of your cash will be placed on the equity market as compared to the bond market. Remember, class, that the equity market is more risky than the bond market. Okay, a shareholder assumes a greater amount of risk if he invests in the equity market and the stock market as compared to the bonds market. Okay, so there is also a fund that's let's see, guys, no? Sige, ipakita ko sa inyo sa an example. I'm sorry I did not just to give a very practical example. Okay, let's see. Mutual funds in the Philippines. Okay, let's see this. Okay, yan. So these are a sample of companies. You have Sun Life Peso Starter Fund. You have Manulife Investment Fund. Okay, meron tayo dito na may association dito, no? Let's take a look at this. Mutual Funds 101. Okay, so this is the Philippine Investment Funds Association. Okay, so it defines mutual fund as an investment company that pools the funds of many individuals and institutional investors to form a massive asset base. Okay, so many will be putting their money there. So the mutual fund will now, ito na yung resource allocation, no? They will now pool that money. And then if there's a huge fund, they can now put it in different assets. Okay, and the risk is actually mitigated. The risk is lessened. The assets are then entrusted to, full-time professional fund manager. So unlike if you're going to invest on your own, guys, unless may training ka talaga on how to become a full-time, no? I'm sure hindi naman kayo, unless you're finance yung magiging yung field nyo ngayon, and that you would want to really double into this. Kung gusto mo talagang maging ito yung, kasi sa finance class, maraming fields yan. No? Maraming fields kayong pwedeng pasukin. And one of that is being a fund manager. So kayo yung nagmamanage ng funds ng mga investors nyo. And kayo yung nagdi-develop ng portfolio. No? Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. And kayo rin nagme-maintain ng portfolio of security investments. Ito, security investments, it can come in the form of equities and in the form of shares of stocks. Okay? Securities, equities or bonds or even money markets. No? A mutual can make money from its securities investments in two ways. Okay? So the funds manager will put it in a security that pays dividends. Okay, so ano to? Yung dividends, ito yung shares of stocks, no? And interest, ito yung mga sa capital market, sa bonds. No? Okay, or a security can rise in value. Ito na yung capital appreciation. Okay, if there are dividends dun sa ininvest ni fund manager, pinapaas on yan dun sa mga nag-invest dun sa mutual funds. Okay, so there are different types of mutual funds. Yan, example, no? Equity funds. No? So lahat naka-invest sa stocks. Okay, equity funds meron in dollars. Okay, meron balance fund. Now there are 57 mutual funds in the country. Meron nag-invest lang sa money market. This is the least risky, yung money market. And being the least risky, ito na yung pinakamaliit na returns. Kasi nasa money market lang siya. Remember, ang money market, less than 1 year lang. No? So ito yung yung balance. Equity funds, ito yung most risky. Okay? So expectedly, this will have the highest returns. Okay, and then we have this, as I said, balance funds in pesos and in dollars. Meron namang naka-invest lang siya sa bonds, no? Debt security. All right? So very interesting. No? Okay, let's just look at this. Why invest in a mutual fund? Okay, interest rates can be volatile and passive short-term investing can erode investment values due to inflation. Kunyari, nag-invest lang kayo sa money markets. Okay, ang interest siya napakababa. 90-day T-bills, very, very low. No? And yung interest mo dyan, kakainin lang ng inflation. On the other hand, the stock market has historically outperformed both long and short-term bank deposit rates. Undisputed yan, class. Yung investment sa stock market will definitely be higher than the investment in bank deposit rates. Okay, unfortunately, ito yung not so many people are familiar with active financial management and effective diversification. Ito yung problema. Okay, if you as an individual will go there and just invest on your own, you might have the shock of your life when later on you find yourself, your investment eroded, no? Kasi bumababa, kasi may mga stocks na bumabagsak. Ang advantage, guys, sa mga professional fund managers, araw-araw na binigay ni Lord sa kanila, they eat, drink, and sleep, no? Itong trabahong to. So they're really professional. Inaaral talaga nila yan. Okay? Though mutual funds, even investors with limited resources can participate in combinations of these high-yielding investment instruments without the headache of personally selecting and monitoring a portfolio. Diba? Free ka na. Sabi ko nga, it's as if you have a advisor, no? Financial advisor. Okay? And it's maganda nito, ang MFs, guys, these are good for growing your money over time. So hindi siya yung tipong pang next week kukunin ko na, hindi ganon. This is usually savings for either retirement, no? Later on, guys, pag nagsimula na kayo mag-work, magsimula na kayo nito, no? You start already either putting your money in insurance. Maganda rin sa insurance kasi kung sino man yung benefactor nyo, beneficiary pala, yung beneficiary nyo, if something happens to you, of course, knock on wood, binari family nyo, no? You're going to marry soon, okay, mag-raise kayo ng kids, okay? Maganda kung i-insure nyo yung family nyo. Kasi risk yan di ba? Hindi natin alam kung ano mangyayari sa atin. So if we put your money so that your family is protected, so maganda yun. It means you think well of your family. And unfortunately, sa mga Pilipino, maraming nagkakaproblema sa ganito. No? So the husband dies, walang naiwan dun sa family. Kawawa. Kawawa yung asawa, kawawa yung anak. They're left to fend off for themselves. Okay? So kayo din, and that's not only for yung demise, it's also for retirement. Kasi kung wala naman nangyari sa'yo, and at the end of the term of the insurance, you get a bonanza. Kasi yung earnings dyan sa insurance, exponential, di ba? Tinignan natin dati. Yung exponential growth. Unlike na pag yung simple interest lang, na linear lang. No? So, grabe yung ano. Kaya I hope I have encouraged you enough to look at this. Siyempre, aralin nyo muna. Don't take my word for it. No? You can be kahit marketing people kayo, be an astute. Kasi everybody has to be an investor. Kahit if you double in marketing in the future as your career, no problem. But be a good marketer by being a good investor. Ganun yun. Kasi we cannot escape the tentacles of finance. Okay, kahit anong field mo pa. Okay, and this one, advantages in investing, as I said, no? Maraming benefits. Yan, may professional management. Okay? And then low capital requirement. May mga may mga mutual funds na for as low as 1,000 to 5,000. Okay? Pwede ka na, no? Okay, ito, let's see. Substantially more than just 5,000 to invest. In contrast, most mutual funds, yan, with just 5,000, I'm sure kahit nga ngayon pag legal age ka na, pwede ka nang pumasok sa mutual fund. Okay? Tapos kung gusto mag-add, keep on adding, okay, you might wish to explore these guys, no? And then they will put, okay, sabi nga natin, another advantage is that your fund manager will put your eggs not in one basket. Okay? All right. Tapos liquidity and safety also. Very important consideration to. Okay? So importante siyempre yung returns. Nevertheless, mutual funds are highly regulated by the SEC. Okay? And there are rules in Investment Company Act and its implementing rules and guidelines. Okay, they are prohibited from investing in particular investment products and engaging in certain transactions. Okay? Hindi sila basta-basta pwedeng mag-invest ng kung ano-ano lang. They have to submit regular reports to SEC. Ayan, so parang ino-audit yung ano nila, no? Potential high returns and also convenience. Okay, so I think I'm not, guys, I invest in mutual funds and I'm not an agent of mutual funds. Kasi baka sabihin mo binibentahan ko kayo nito. No, I'm not. Okay, but tingnan natin itong mga fund managers. Okay, ito yung mga example ng fund managers. Di ba 57 sila lahat? Okay, so these are the companies that engage in mutual funds. No? You can take a look at them, okay, and try to try to scan the market, kung ano maganda. Okay, may mga bond funds. Ito, pinapasok lang nila yung pera nila sa mga bonds. Ito naman yung mga balanced funds. Okay? All right. So, clear so far to, class? Any questions? We want the discussion to be as practical as possible. No? Something which may not benefit you now, but hopefully, meron na kayong level of awareness, level of consciousness na merong ganito. No? And that in the future, pag kumikita na ako, magsiset aside lang ako sa bangko ng konti. And then, magsiset aside ako dito. Either buy an insurance policy. It's good to buy an insurance policy while you're young. Kasi the premium is a lot cheaper habang bata pa kayo. Pagkasimula nyo ng pagtrabaho, okay, yun ang unang tingnan nyo, no? Okay, you can invest in Sun Life, in Manulife, marami pang mga ibang BPI PhilAm, okay, marami pang ibang insurance companies. And you take a look at that, and while you're young, mag-invest na kayo. No? Para sa retirement rin yan. You'll be happy that you did. No? And the premium, kahit konti lang yung mga premium, you can afford that. So it will also make you think about managing your finances. So that yung kunyari may mga dumadating sa inyo extra, huwag bili ng kung ano man gadgets. Kasi yung gadgets, guys, nabubulok din yan. Okay? I stopped with investing or wasting my money on gadgets dati. When I was young, talagang addict ako dyan. No? I would even go to Singapore, no? Na kung saan yung mga bagong gadgets pumupunta ako doon para bumili. Now, fast forward, when I look back, I see the folly, the quote-unquote stupidity of yung very, sabihin natin, yung mapusok na mga decision to look good before people kasi may mga bagong gadget ka. When in fact, these things are of no consequence. No? Yan, life lessons yan, guys, which I'm sharing with you. No consequence. Rather, of consequence is to prepare your life for the future. But prepare your life for the future, magkaka-family kayo, tapos magre-retire kayo in the future, and then do not make your kids, your would-be kids in the future, as your insurance policy. Kasi dito sa Philippines, parang naging ganun yung practice. Ang mga magkakaanak ko ng marami kasi sila yung susuporta sa akin in the future. Nothing should be, a good parent will not make himself a burden to the children. Kaya you prepare yourself, kayo mismo. Kayo mismo ang maging responsible sa future nyo. And sorry if I'm talking about this, pero these are facts in life. Hindi natin, there are two things that are certain in life. Alam niyo ba yun? What do you think are two certain things in life that we can't do away with? Anyone? Dalawang bagay sa buhay natin na we cannot escape from. We cannot do away with. Yes, thank you, Rafi. That's correct. Death, and the other one is death. Lahat tayo dadaan dyan, whether you like it or not. No? What's another one that we can't escape from? It's yan. Age, in a sense, pero time? No, not time. It's, yes, thank you, Richmond. Sabi nila, two things we cannot avoid in life, death and taxes. Mamamatay ka na lang, may tax ka pa, no? Diba? Yung person who dies, whatever his assets are, itatax ng government yan in the form of estate tax. Okay? Kaya nga yan, importante din yan, finance din yan, guys. Okay, so parents should also prepare that. Kasi kaya ang ginagawa, yung iba, yung mga assets nila, pinapason sa mga anak nila in the form of donors taxes. Kasi mas mura ang donors tax kaysa kay estate tax. Yung estate tax is the tax on the death of a person. So yung mga assets na yan, may share si Big Brother dyan. May share si government dyan. So these are very interesting things. No? And we cannot say that, okay lang yan. Kasi hindi eh. Kailangan malaman natin yan. Kailangan paghandaan yung mga bagay. Okay, clear so far, class? I hope this discussion has been quite helpful. Hello? Any questions so far? Clear so far? Helpful ba? Sabi naman ng yes o no? Yeah? I hope you find that helpful. Yeah, that's the role of finance, guys. No? So, sabi ko nga sa inyo, class, I don't care if you pursue a marketing career. Okay yun. Marketing is a very, very good career. However, syempre, ba't ba kayo magpe-pursue ng career na yun? So, sweldo kayo, di ba? To earn more, ba? To generate more cash. Ang question, what do you do with that? Okay, so there is now where finance comes in. Okay? All right, so balikan na natin tong PowerPoint slide natin to. Our number, we have 30 more minutes. And then may mga 30 plus na slides, but we need to finish this. Okay, so let me hurry up a bit. So ito pareho lang ng kanina, no? You have direct finance, and then you have your indirect finance. Sa direct finance, diretso from the lender to the borrower. No? And then dito naman, sa indirect finance, dadaan muna sa intermediary. Hindi diretso sa financial market. No? All right. So we said that this financial system, in particular the financial intermediaries, kasi maraming dinadaan dito because of its inherent advantage. Because sabi natin, there are more transacting business here than dito sa direct. Kasi this will require some degree of expertise. Ito naman, we can tap on the knowledge and the expertise of the, for example, some mutual fund managers. Okay, so this allows the transfer of funds, which is very important for an economy. Then guys, let me just drink water. Okay, so we said that the purpose of the financial system is to allow the flow of funds. And without the flow of funds, guys, an economy will collapse. Okay, kasi hindi magmi-meet yung borrowers at saka yung lenders. No chance for them to, whether directly or indirectly, to provide opportunities for those with potential investments to borrow funds, and for those who don't have at the moment maybe a business or who does not need that funds first to lend it so that it also earns interest. and this provides the economic efficiency. Okay. So let me just browse through this very quickly. I already mentioned this. If you have excess, for example, 100 million, and if you don't have, there are no financial markets there, anong gagawin mo dun sa 100 million? If you just put your money under your mattress, this will not earn. Put it in your safety deposit sa bahay. Okay, it might be protected from fire, but it will not be protected from depreciation. Because over time, inflation sets in, and then the value of your money goes down. In the presence of the market, guys, okay, productivity is enhanced. Okay, productivity in the sense that the borrowers will now have funds in order to pursue their business or operations, and the lenders will have also their money protected kasi wala lang sa bahay, right? And then they can see also some benefit from it in the form of interest or dividends. Okay, and we said that it's an efficient method. It's very efficient in allocation of capital. Kasi nagmi-meet the borrowers and the lenders meet in this market, which allows now the funds to move from household to household, from people to people, from firms to firms. As we said, there are firms or entities that need funds, and there are firms that have entities that have excess funds, and the market provides a venue for them to meet. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the different classifications of financial markets. Okay, there are many types of financial markets. Let's just take a look at some of them. So for the type, what are the types of financial instruments? We can either have debt or equity. As I mentioned to you before, how do companies finance their assets? It's either from debt or from equity to raise their assets in order to, why do firms need assets? To support their sales, to support their sales targets. So they can either raise funds from the debt markets. The debt markets can be of two types: the short term, which is with a maturity less than 1 year, and long term, maturity greater than 1 year. Dali guys. Okay, and if it's less than 1 year, we call it money markets. And then I mentioned a while ago, in the money markets, it depends. If it's a private firm, okay, the private firm will issue what we call a commercial paper. Diba? Okay, commercial paper ang tawag, diba? On the other hand, if it's the government issuing that security, we call it T-bills, treasury bills, as proof that the government owes the holder that amount. Okay. Okay, so these are what we call financial instruments. No? Either sa debt market, either money markets in the form of commercial papers or treasury bills. Now sa capital market naman, you have, pag private firms, you have bonds, long-term to, no? Or you have what we call treasury bonds. Treasury, government ang humihiram yan. Kaya treasury bills, short-term, treasury bonds, long-term. Okay. Okay, now, aside from the debt markets, as regards the type of financial instruments, we also have the equity markets. So the equity markets, guys, what's issued there are common stocks. So ang difference ng debt, di ba, ito utang. So what's the motivation for investors to put their money here? Interest payments and also the principal. On the other hand, dito naman, common stocks, guys, the dividends and capital appreciation. And historically, yung return sa equity markets mas mataas kaysa sa debt markets. Why? Consistent with the principle of risk and return. Mas risky yung placement sa equity kaysa sa debt market. Otherwise, class, kung mas mataas yung return sa debt market, walang mag-i-invest sa equity. Bakit? Ba't ako mag-i-invest sa equity? Mas risky na tapos mas mababa pa yung returns. Diba? Doesn't make sense. Okay, next, there are markets that as to whether the securities are old or new issue or old issue. Okay, so for example, a company will issue their shares of stock for the first time. Now that issuance will be sold at the primary market. Okay, kasi bagong stock yan. Hindi pa binenta yung stock na yan. On the other hand, if the stock has already been issued and sold previously, then you go to the secondary market. Sorry. Okay, so for example, stocks sold or bought in the Philippine Stock Exchange. Ano yan? Secondary market yan. If you go to PSE and then ask your broker to buy Globe shares for you, then yung Globe shares na yan, dati nang issued yan. So yung bibilin mo was formerly owned by a shareholder. So you can buy it in the Philippine Stock Exchange through a broker, and then that market is called secondary market. Pag yung mga IPOs, what are IPOs? Initial public offering. So these are shares of stocks that are to be issued for the first time, new. So pag ganon, hindi nyo bibilin sa secondary market. You're going to buy that at the primary market. Okay? And then third, meron tayong mga markets can either be localized geographically, so present siya dun sa geographical location yun, or digital siya or virtual. Example, exchanges or OTC. Example, New York Stock Exchange, NYSE. Ito may physical location to sa New York, sa Wall Street. No? In that place, ando dun yung trading conducted. So exchanges yan. On the other hand, OTC, walang physical place. No? Okay, over the counter. So dealers at different locations buy and sell. So kahit na nasa Philippines ako, I can buy, for example, Korean stocks if there are OTC markets for them. Okay, so I don't need to go to the physical location. Okay, so these are just some examples ng financial markets. Ito, we discussed this. Primary, secondary, money, capital, bond, stock market. Okay, consumer credit. Alam natin to, consumer credit, ang market yan. Diyan nakakabili ng mga consumer goods, no? Cars, etc. So meron ding auction market. Okay, meron OTC, I mentioned a while ago. Then spot market, I mentioned this thing to you before, where you buy, let's say, commodities on the spot. No? Futures, in the future pa bibilhin. Options, option to buy lang. And then FX market also, foreign exchange market. So these are the many different markets, okay, that that are at play as far as the financial system is concerned. So the next slides are just reinforcements of what we have discussed so far. Itong money market, so less than 1 year. No? So para saan to? This is a very liquid market. So, ibig sabihin yung exchange ng cash mabilisan. Short maturities lang to. 3 months, 9 months, less than 1 year. So ginagamit to ng participants para manghiram lang for a short term. So either the companies or the government, the tenor can be just several days up to just under a year. So the market where companies borrow for less than 1 year, it's called money market. And then capital markets, sabi natin capital markets, di ba, pwede siyang debt market or pwedeng equity market to. But it's usually more than 1 year. Okay? It involves instruments. No? What are instruments? Ito yung may securities. Diba? Yung may proof. Okay? Security on the part of the holder. May pinanghahawakan siya. Such as stocks or bonds, and both for medium and long term. It is different from money markets. No? Okay, kasi ang money market not exceeding 1 year. Ito more than 1 year. Okay? So, ano lang guys, ha? If there are any questions, please feel free. Okay, I'm just looking at the time. So, I think most of these were already discussed, no? A while ago. So, rini-review lang natin to. Securities, guys, diba? Itong sinasabi natin, instrument to, no? Instrument in the form of stocks or bonds. Ito yung hawak ng owner, ng holder of the stocks or the bonds. That the company that issued this, okay, is nasabi na showing that I'm part owner of the company pag stocks. So, yung stock certificate, guys, it represents an ownership position in a publicly traded corporation. Ngayon, dati, binibigay pa yung stock certificate. Ngayon, wala na yon. Scriptless na kung tawagin. No? Scriptless na. Okay, wala nang proof na in the form of a stock certificate. Lahat ng proof, guys, nasa Philippine Stock Exchange na. So, it's done through the broker. Okay? So, kailangan sa broker, pag magtatransact kayo, may information form na papaano sa inyo. Ipapa-fill up. And that will be submitted to SEC. And SEC has a record of all the investors there. So, alam nila kung ano yung ownership mo. Ilang stocks ang meron ka kay Jollibee. Okay? So, you don't have to show anymore yung stock certificate. Okay? Kasi meron ng repository ng information na yun. Okay? Ganun din sa bonds, guys. Okay? As we said, securities are typically divided into debt securities in the form of bonds and equities in the form of shares of stocks. Okay? Related tong securities market na to sa, diba related siya sa capital markets. Kasi ang capital markets, di ba? Ito yung debt or equity. Okay, which is this one. So pareho lang siya, iba lang nga lang yung pagkatawag. Dito ang focus yung instrument, yung stocks and bonds. Dito ang focus kung anong capitalization ang ginamit, either debt or equity. But they're the same thing kasi ang security nito is a bond. Ito ang security nito is your stocks. Okay? So it's also related to the primary and the secondary market, where in the primary market, what's issued are new shares of stocks, and we call it IPOs, diba? Initial public offerings, and then yung secondary market. Okay, another explanation for yung structure in the form of primary or secondary. Okay, primary, new securities sold. Okay, and here you meet another intermediary, an investment bank, no? Okay, anong ginagawa ng investment bank? Iba siya sa bangko, no? Iba yung investment banker. Ang investment bank, one of their role is to underwrite the offering. So kunyari, no? Kunyari si Globe hihiram ng, let's say, 100 billion pesos. 100 billion. So this is a big amount. So maybe Globe might find it difficult to borrow from one bank. Okay? So ang gagawin ni Globe, Globe can tap the services of an investment bank. Ang gagawin ng investment bank, sila ang uutang para kay Globe. And then pwede siyang gumawa ng syndicated loan. Anong syndicated loan? Parang sindikato, no? Syndicated loan. I-offer niya to several banks. Kunwari 4 banks, 5 banks, for the 5 banks to raise this amount. Okay? So ma-raise itong 100 billion. So it's going to be done by the investment bank. Okay, sandali lang guys ha. Maingay itong aso. Okay, so and then we have here, so underwriting ang tawag doon, ano? Sila yung maglo-loan para kay Globe. No? Okay, so iba't ibang agreement yan, pwedeng sila yung bibili nito for Globe. Okay, and then Globe will pay them. Okay, tapos ko-collectin yung mga banks. Okay, siya yung magbabayad sa mga banks, yung sa syndicated loan. All right, then we have secondary market. Ano si secondary market, class? Securities that have been issued and bought or sold before. So this one we know, PSE, Philippine Stock Exchange. Now I'd like to give you a few seconds. Pakihanap na ano ng FTSE. Ano tong DAX? Meron pang CAC 40. What are these? Ano yung Nikkei 225? Paki-check nga guys sa internet. What are these? NYSE we know. Ano tong Nasdaq na to? So at least for us to be familiar with the different stock exchanges or stock indices. PSE we know this is Philippine Stock Exchange. Ano si FTSE? Ano si DAX? Ano si CAC CAC. Okay, so kindly chat please. Share your answer to everyone, please. NYSE is, I mentioned this a while ago, this is New York Stock Exchange. So this is an exchange, no? Physical place yan. Okay, waiting for your answers, class. For FTSE, for DAX, for CAC. Answers, please. Okay, thank you. Raf, anong country tong FTSE? Call it FTSE, no? Anong country yung Financial Times Stock Exchange?
Sir, hold on. I'm still researching it. I think, sir, it's British, London, based in London.
Okay. UK siya, no?
UK.
UK to, no? Yung FTSE, no? So itong DAX, ano to? These are the stock exchanges. Si FTSE, si DAX, ano man siya? DAX.
Sir, it's the German one.
Yes, the German.
Deutscher, yeah, something.
Aktien, no?
Yes,
Okay.
sir, it's in German.
Hindi, iba yung data analysis expression sa Excel yan, ha? Ano to, yung DAX is a language used in Power BI, Power Business Intelligence. Alexa, iba yung DAX niyan. Data analysis expressions. So yung DAX na sinasabi ko, this is the exchange, stock exchange ng anong country? Sabi nga ni Ralph, ikaw ba Ralph sumagot?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is German. No? This is German. Okay, itong CAC, guys. Iba, how about the others? Would you like to answer?
Sir, for NASDAQ, it's National Association of Securities Dealers.
Automated
quotations.
Okay, so a NASDAQ, National Association of Stock Dealers Automated Quotation. Automated quotation. So which tells us that this is OTC. Over the counter to. Virtual yung ano nito. Wala itong physical place. Di ba kanina sinabi natin, geographical location. NYSE ganun. Si NASDAQ hindi, OTC to. Over the counter. Alright, itong CAC 40, anong country to? Hello? Nasdaq American yan, no? Okay, French yung ano. Si ano lang ba yung naghanap? Si Rafi lang? How about the others? So, just like sa atin yung PSE, Philippine Stock Exchange Index, no? Yung index natin consists of 30 companies. Ito yung sa French, no? Index ng France to. CAC 40 companies to. Okay, si Nikkei 225 saan to? Sa Japan to, no? So ito yung index ng Tokyo Stock Exchange, TSE. Okay, tanong ko lang, ang PSE ba Is it exchange, physical exchange to, or over the counter? Kindly answer, please. See, Philippine Stock Exchange. Is it a physical exchange or OTC siya? Si NYSE kasi physical exchange to. I'll just limit my question to PSE and leave you to search kung yung FTSE, yung DAX, if these are exchanges or OTCs. Okay, any answers sa PSE? Exchange. Okay, what made you say so, Rafi?
Sir, because a lot of publicly traded companies are being traded there. For example, Jollibee or
Oo. Okay,
for
but
example,
yeah,
Max.
pwede namang
or
ano
other
pwede
companies.
namang traded there kahit na OTC lang. Does that mean that there's a physical place?
Oh, sir, they used to have a physical place,
Okay.
but not anymore.
Bakit not anymore?
So I
Diba,
heard the
di ba
branch
nasa
in
Ayala
BGC.
yan? Di ba? At tapos dati nasa Ayala. Tapos lumipat sa BGC. No?
Yes, sir. But the
Tapos ano
ones here in
nangyari?
BGC, I heard it's closed, like no one's there, so
Correct.
everything's online.
Correct. So it's now an OTC na siya. No?
Okay.
So CPSE class, dati may physical exchange to. Dati I used to frequent this. Pupunta ako sa Ayala. Nasa Ayala pa siya dati. Then it was transferred to BGC. Okay, so for just a few months lang, and then the management decided to make this as OTC na rin, over the counter na rin. Okay, so thank you for your answers. Okay, Rafi, please remind me, you get the +3 points in sa next quiz, no? For your answers, for participating. Okay. All right, now there are two things that you know, Jollibee or Globe or those companies listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange do not get money from the trading in the secondary market. Kasi sa secondary market, it's the buyers of the stock and the sellers that do the transaction. Walang kinalaman na si Jollibee doon. So, unless it's an IPO, pag IPO kasi, di diretso kay Jollibee pera. Kasi initial public offering yun. Pag secondary market, okay, Jollibee does not get any cash from that. But it has two important functions. Number one, liquidity. So when we say liquidity, so again, it provides yung may mga excess cash na gustong bumili ng Jollibee at saka yung mga kailangan ng cash na gustong ibenta yung Jollibee nila, then they can meet in that market. So it provides liquidity for the two parties. Pangalawa, it establishes a price for the securities. What does this mean? It's very useful for valuing a company. Kasi di ba, if people act hopefully rationally, and they will act based on their perception of the company. So if people think that Jollibee will be performing well, okay, and that it's very established, yung perception ng mga tao, no? So what will people do? They will buy the shares of stocks of Jollibee, and they will hang on to their investment for as long as they can. So what happens is that this will raise the price of Jollibee. So pag nag-raise yung price ng Jollibee kasi in demand siya, anong nangyayari? Di ba nagkakaroon ng capital appreciation? And shareholders are very happy of this. Kunyari, nabili nila dati at 30 pesos. Okay? Now, their investments are at 280 pesos per share na yun, no? So that's a big jump from the time since they bought the shares of stocks. Okay, so let me just see. Okay, So I have some few more slides, but these ones are just repeats. No? So I have a few more minutes. So ito, class, so let me just follow this through. Sabi natin ang securities, it's a written legal obligation. So ito yung proof for the benefit of the investor. Sa securities market, either yung shares of stocks or yung bonds. No? Sabi natin shares of stock, scriptless na siya. So hindi na kailangan ng physical na shares of stocks. Okay? So that's the importance of the securities market. So sabi natin, it provides liquidity, no? And nare-reduce yung transaction cost and the price discovery. Ano ba talaga yung value? Kasi this will be consistent with the law of supply and demand. And what's being traded there? Stocks, bonds, and other loans of all types. Okay, so also intermediaries. Sabi natin, ano ba yung purpose ng intermediaries? Okay, maturity intermediation, risk reduction via diversification. So instead of just investing in one stock, you're able to invest in several stocks by going through a financial intermediary. Kunyari, mutual fund. So, nami-mitigate yung risk mo. Okay? Kasi kung isang stock lang na invest mo sa equity, nako, very risky yun. And there's cost reduction and there's information processing. Sabi natin yung mga institutions na to, at their disposal based on their research, meron silang very important na information, which you do not have as an individual. So you can tap this. You can tap this information coming from them. Okay, examples are depository institutions like banks, insurance companies, investment companies, and investment banks. Okay, it would be good for you to look at the internet and see what are the distinctions. Yung banks, alam nyo. Insurance, alam nyo. Pero investment companies and investment banks, I encourage you to look at the net and see what are the difference between these two. Okay, so inulit lang natin to, no? In direct finance, si savers at saka si buyers, they meet through the intermediary. Okay? Okay, so ang advantage ng intermediaries, yung transaction cost bumababa, risk bumababa, and yung asymmetric information, ibig sabihin nun, may mga information ang nakakaalam lang yung intermediary, okay? Tapos hindi alam ng individual. So you can tap that information to be provided by the fund manager. So ang daming advantage talaga, class, ng going through a financial intermediary as against doing it on your own. Okay? So also yung reduction ng transaction cost, no? And also economies of scale. Yung economies of scale, ang nangyayari yan, since pinupool ng mutual fund, pinupool niya yung funds, lumiliit yung transaction cost. The transaction cost goes down because of economies of scale. Okay, it's already time, class. Okay, may I have just 2 more minutes? Tapusin ko lang to. Konti na lang naman to, tsaka konting-konti lang to, guys. Do I have your permission? 2 minutes, class? Hello? Permission, class? Okay. So wala na nag-chat, mukhang wala na kayo. Okay. All right. So anyway, this is recorded. So if you're not there, okay lang. At least na-record na natin to, no? Now, there's another benefit of financial intermediaries, low transaction. Okay, and then the process of risk sharing. So bumababa yung risk mo as an investor. FIs create and sell assets with lesser risk to one party in order to buy assets with greater risk from another party. Okay, so bebentahan kayo ng mutual fund, ng mga funds na to, konti lang yung risk nun. Kasi ang gagawin ng mutual fund, yung pinupool nila na resources, sila yung bibili niyan from the capital markets. Okay? And hindi kayo didiretso dun sa capital markets. Sila yung mag-a-assume ng greater amount of risk. Okay? So this is what we call asset transformation. Okay? Because in a sense, risky assets are turned into safer assets for investors. Bibili sila sa sa capital markets, risky yung assets na yun, and then ibebenta nila sa investors na less risk. So that's called asset transformation. Okay, and as I said, nada-diversify yung asset holding ng individual. All right? So here, yung asymmetric information, ito yung mga advantages, guys, ng financial intermediaries. So examples are commercial banks, investment banks, and financial services. Okay? Ito yung examples ng commercial banks. So BPI, Metrobank, BDO. Okay? So these are the traditional na department stores ng finance. Okay, and then we also have investment banks. We gave an example of what they do. They help firms raise capital in the process called underwriting. Okay, sometimes they will buy these securities from the corporation and resell them to savers. Okay, so these are other examples: M&A advisory, bespoke financing, investment research, and financing sa debt and equity capital markets. Examples ng top investment banks sa Philippines. So si BPI, iba siya dun sa BPI Capital Corporation. Si First Metro, iba siya kay Metrobank. So may spin-off si BPI, ito, investment bank to. PNB meron din siyang investment bank. Okay, and lastly, some corporations combine the different financial institutions. For example, si Citigroup, napakalaking company nito. Si Citigroup, sa kanya yung Citibank, sa kanya yung Smith Barney, may insurance company siya, may leasing company siya. So in one umbrella, you have Citigroup. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. That ends our discussion. And thank you so much for participating. Si Rafi, during the 2008 crisis, what kind of practices? Yeah, this is a good discussion, Rafi. Siguro next meeting, discuss natin to. Huh? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, class. And let me hope you learned something today.